Hi everyone, and welcome to vlog episode number 4. This one will kind of be a short one because there's only really 2 subjects to talk about. Episode 4 of Dino Charge and the Power/Rangers fan film and my thoughts on that thing. But first, let's go to episode 4 of Dino Charge. When this episode aired, I was shocked because when we first heard about Dino Charge, the first thing that people grappled on, including me, was alright, the Blue Ranger is going to be a caveman. That sounds like a bad idea because, you picture it in your head. Caveman, we dealt with something similar with Cole for a few episodes, but it's going to be magnified. He's going to talk really badly. He might be full of really bad jokes, etc., etc. And also we were thinking of, the character in Kyoryuger because he does the same similar thing. He throws jokes, and he's the main comedy relief of the series, so we really thought bad things. But when this episode aired, I was shocked on how well Chip Lynn did the episode because he obviously has written very good episodes in the past that I particularly like, but I was surprised at how well this episode was, to the point where this episode beats out the past 3, including the pilot, in quality, in writing, where it didn't feel like stiff or being comedy, because the main issue with this type of episode is that it deals with real life things, meaning injuries, a kid is involved, and PR's track record with kids is really not good, ranging from in the MMPR days where they casted that girl in order to fill in that Jew Ranger footage where she had to play an Asian. She had this really black wig. Till this day, I do not understand why they casted a Caucasian girl for an Asian character where they could have just picked an Asian girl. I don't know. Another episode was in Dino Thunder where they overdubbed that kid with that woman's voice, which made it feel like some weird, horrific kid in this. It made it feel wrong. And of course, the classic scene with Kid Jaden and Kid Antonio where they have New Zealand accents where they can not do anything at all, which sucks. Now, this episode is my favorite, but it still has a few issues which are very minor. I also figured that the way Coda was, in order for him to go forward in time, I had a feeling they were going to copy the whole Captain America thing where he was frozen. Basically, 100,000 years ago, they were in a cave up on a mountain, and Coda falls into the lake, which looked like it was frozen, so I was like, oh, okay, they confirmed that. Now, the first complaint I had for the episode was Coda's brother. It's perfectly fine that he has a brother and whatnot. We get basic backstory to Coda, so he obviously has a family, or had a family, in that cave 100,000 years ago, except his brother spoke perfect English, which I thought was kind of stupid, while Coda was, he has the broken English, and it doesn't make any sense why that happened. Now, this is 4 for 4. John Lid has written all 4 episodes. I still doubt he's going to do the entire series or /season. I do like that they also answered how Coda found the Enter Gem, because again, why would the caveman find it? It was because it was a fluke. It was basically he was doing all his caveman drawings, writings, if you want to call it, on the cave, and he found it by a fluke in there. And I also noticed that PR keeps putting in the extinct dodo bird. It's on the cave wall where Coda wrote his stuff, and it's also on Chase's skateboard. I don't know what they're referencing, honestly, because I can't think of anything in Kyoryuger, but obviously maybe it's a New Zealand thing, maybe a Kiwi thing, I don't know. Honestly, I just noticed that for a couple episodes so far. Another thing that kind of surprised me in this episode was the introduction of Lucky Ryu, or Curio, in Dino Charge, because, when they first announced the season of Dino Charge, Lucky Ryu's character was gone. He wasn't in the beginning, and I was like, oh, okay, Lucky Ryu is probably too stupid for the show, so they're going to completely cut him out. And for the most part, I thought that was going to happen because, in Dino Charge, when they enlarged them, they used the magna beam from the ship. And I'm like, okay, they cut out Lucky Ryu's, doing the watering and then making the monster grow. And I was like, okay, so he's going to permanently cut out, until we saw in Toy Fair there was a figure of him. So I was like, oh, so Dino Charge is going to use the character. And lo and behold, in episode 4, he pops in. So he's going to be a minor character just to deal with the Japanese footage at some point. The best moment in this episode is the kid, Peter, who's played by Levi Gunyan. Normally, I've hate a lot of kids for all those variations that can't do accents, can't act, but wherever they found this kid, I don't know if he's American or he can just pull off a really good accent. One of the best kids in PR. There have been several good kids in PR. Not all of them are bad, but he's one of the best. Not just because he has a good accent, but because Judd Lin actually decided, let's do something real for the show where the kid gets injured during the attack. Obviously, when you push someone off a bike and they fall on the floor, you can easily break your leg or injure your arm or whatever. It's not like where we see the Rangers or a lot of people when there are explosions going on, they're perfectly fine as soon as they fall down. That's not always the case. So Judd Lin wrote in this story that the kid's leg was broken, and he also bleeds, which is another rarity PR does. On occasion, they do use it in some fashion. Like, the most common thing PR does is, oh, my shoulder's hurting, and there's bruises. And then you see sometimes, they wrap themselves inside, the medical bandages. That's the closest extent we get to PR showing injuries. And a lot of times that always sucks because it's never really realistic. We don't see them in splints. We don't see cuts and wounds. I'm not saying have a gore fest because that's not what PR really is. But I'm saying when you're in situations like this, have injuries. In this episode, they made the injuries real. Coda and Peter's acting and reaction to each other was real. So it made a very good introductory episode to Coda. And you don't really even mind that Coda doesn't speak really well anymore because you got used to him. We also get a little bit with Chase. Chase helped him out at the beginning of the episode, although it sucks that Chase had to be ignored, but that's what happens in the Japanese footage. The Black Ranger was doing something else, so unfortunately Chase had to be omitted from the episode. But, Chase will eventually get his time to shine. Now, another complaint to this episode I have is the cell phone moment. Now, I understand that, the cave is designed to block morphing, the dino comms, or any type of electro phone system, etc. Now, they obviously had it right in the line, oh, the phone signal doesn't work, but the GPS might. I'm sorry, the phone and GPS are connected to each other. If one doesn't work, the other is not. Another thing that annoyed me too is that obviously Peter's phone was better at getting through the interference than the dino comms. That really was forced. I wouldn't have mind if, Peter said, try my phone, and then they try the GPS and it doesn't work, and then, Coda has to find his way out of the cave on his own, which, again, that would have been possible because he is a caveman and he does this for his entire life. He didn't have to use the GPS. Now, another thing that I knew was eventually going to happen was the first time PRP Visual Effects forgot to do a battery fix. There was a quick close-up of the Gabuterra battery, and we unfortunately saw it. They didn't digitally fix it, unfortunately. They might have just forgotten it, or they literally ran out of money and just couldn't do it. Another cool little tidbit in the episode was Kendall. We actually saw her go on the field, which is great, because most mentors usually don't go on the field, which is actually signaling you, Kendall maybe is a little bit more than a mentor. And another little detail they put in is if you look really closely, Kendall's pants are dark purple, which obviously, if you ever see a specific color on a character, that usually means, oh, they're going to be a ranger at some point, that's their color. Which I was wondering when they were going to introduce that, because for so far we were only seeing gray and blacks because she was just wearing a suit. And this was the first time I noticed, at least, that her pants were purple, signaling, oh, she's going to be violet later on. And my last complaint for the episode is honestly just a technical goof. When Tricera actually breaks Chase out of the in his jail cell. Tricera's tail was way too small, obviously, because they wanted to fit more of the tail in. Because honestly, if Tricera's tail broke into the thing, you would have probably only saw the yellow tip. The Triceratops, although she really isn't a Triceratops, she's a Styracosaurus. They made it too small just to see more of it. That's just a technical goof that I always see. The most famous goof of size problems is Serpentera compared to Cole when he rammed down his Wild Force rider cycle into the mouth of Serpentera. Makes no sense because Cole would have to be the size of a Megazord himself in order to do that. So overall, this episode was my favorite as of now. Episode 4 beats the pilot, beats episode 2 and 3, and it shows that the caveman story is viable in at least Dino Charge. Now let's move on to the second subject, the Power/Ranger fan film. Now, this has gotten a lot of mixed reactions between fans and Saban Company. My point of view from it, it's like 50-50. There were some aspects of the fan film that I liked, then there were a lot of other aspects of the fan film that I hated. Basically, this fan film is a rated R version of Power Rangers. It's shown in that type of gritty aspect. To me, it was a combination of Call of Duty, Minority Report, Matrix perhaps, and a couple of other movies you could probably think of, maybe even RoboCop to a degree, the amount of gore that the movie has. And that was not really the major complaint that I had. It's just the amount of stuff they threw in to make it an R-rated film equivalent. That's what threw me off. And then the characters were, like, they were completely different. I understand where they were going, because, like, not everyone's going to eventually grow up, because they started as teenagers, and eventually, you know, you become an adult and this. It was also a very confusing story, because from what I get, it felt like this was trying to take place between Season 3 and Zeo, but it was still confusing where it took place. The looks of the Ranger suits were okay. Again, I don't mind that they redesigned the MMPR suits, although they kind of look like football gear. I didn't really mind that. My major complaint was like the opening scene where I see the Rangers using real guns. Not just the fact that they're just using real guns and bullets and killing people left and right. It's just the fact that where are their blade blaster? Where's the power cannon? Where's the power blaster? Where are all their main weapons? That was not explained in the movie unless I missed something. And you can't say in the movie Billy somehow sabotaged them and turned them off. Why would he only sabotage the weapons and not the suits? That makes no sense in any regard. Out of all the changes that the Rangers got in the fan film, Billy was the worst to me. One, they didn't need to make him gay just because David Yost is gay. I mean, but that's not my major hate. My major hate is they basically turned him into that one of the characters in Watchmen. I can't remember his name. The guys, he quit and he became that, you know, that millionaire company leader who didn't care what the hell was going on and just used whatever his abilities to his advantage. That's what Billy was. And I just didn't understand why all the Rangers had to kill each other or be killed. Another worst moment, I think, is Bulk and Skull being in a gang. I do not see Bulk and Skull ever doing that in any way at all. And then, of course, killing Jason, which I particularly didn't like that they casted someone with long hair, because since these are all new actors, new people playing the characters, you can easily get confused who's playing who. Like, I didn't know the guy interrogating Kimberly was Rocky, unless you paid attention to the dialogue. Because sometimes when I first saw it, I didn't pay attention to the dialogue. I'm just listening to Kim. I didn't realize that was Rocky at first because it doesn't look like Rocky, and that threw me off. And when Jason had long hair, I'm thinking, is that Tommy? They got married? And no, it's like Jason with Kim. And I'm like, okay, I don't mind that bit. Although he was gruesomely killed because of Bulk and Skull, I didn't like that at all. And another thing that kind of annoyed me is that, oh, so all the splatter effects and the blood and gore are basically the equivalent of the show Spark Hits. That's basically we're like, well, how can we use the Spark Hits in this fan film? Let's make it blood splatter and make it gory as hell. And another character that I thought who was blatantly abused was Zach. He fell into the stereotypical cliche of a black man, unfortunately, and he was smoking cocaine. And there was a nude scene, and I'm like, are you serious? You have nude scenes in a PR fan film? I thought that was completely unnecessary. Him, you know, practicing his martial arts inside his home, that was perfectly fine. I expect that. And the joke on Hip Hop Keto, that was okay. I didn't mind that because they're joking on, you know, how in the 90s they always did that type of weird crap where you have a celebrity that turned into doing this, etc. The fight scene with Zach, it was okay. It did feel like PR, although I was surprised they went with Korea and not Japan, because that would have been more of a reference to Super Sentai in more of a way that I thought, I was like, why'd you do Korea? Another thing that bothered me in the movie was that everyone was using knives. They had Wolverine claws at the beginning of the movie. Zach was throwing knives. I was like, again, what happened to your main weapons? It makes no sense. And what is up with the Black Ranger suit having no neck? But it's there. I know it's there. We could see there is a white neck, but the helmet is so big, it looks like no one has necks. So when you see Zach fighting, it looks like he's like scrunched down and looking stupid. And another, I will complain about one little tidbit that I hated was that, yeah, great, we heard Zach say it's morphin' time, but technically he should have said back to action. When you have your suit on and your helmet off, you always say that. Okay, I have to say, there are a few things that I liked about this fan film. I don't know how he got Katie Sackhoff to play Kim, but I thought that was a good idea to play as Kim. I didn't like the interrogation scene because, again, it was Minority Report and all this other weird crap. Of course, the best thing about the film was probably the CGI. Obviously, the majority of the money went towards all the effects work in there. I mean, Rocky had CGI robotic foot. We had Transformers-esque designs. I assume they were supposed to be these shows Megazord, but again, it looked more like Transformers instead of actually looking like the Megazord. But obviously, they wanted to go into a different artistic way because, again, it's a fan film. I could do whatever you want. I could see Tommy having a sword. I don't mind that because that's a reference to the Dragon Dagger in a somewhat way. But I did not like his shield being an energy-based shield. Not because it looked weird. It was for the fact that if you look closely on the energy shield, they were using the graphics in the cell during Kim's interrogation on there. They just threw that on there. I was like, why do you have cell graphics on there? It made no sense. So that was the only reason why I didn't like the energy dragon shield. It would have been better if it was more shaped like the original one. Probably my last complaint to the fan film is Trini's death scene. Did we really need to show that? Did we really need to have the nod that Thuy Trang has passed away from the main original cast? Did we really have to bop that on your head just because, yes, all the Rangers are being killed, and Tommy is the only one who's alive. Spoiler alert, Kim is actually Rita, which I didn't like that ending. Even though it was like, ooh, it's Carla Perez. The only time we actually can hear Carla Perez play Rita because, you know, Barbara Goodson overdubbed her, and that was a whole fiasco in itself on PR because Carla, after a while, hated that her voice never got heard. So we got to hear it here, which was cool because that was the first time I actually heard her voice. I have never heard her voice until this moment. And, of course, they made a different Rita. Rita design was all black. It still had the basic, you know, horns and whatnot. It was an interesting twist, but at the same time, it doesn't help my look toward the movie. It shows that, you know, with a good budget, PR could feel like Transformers in that aspect, and, you know, Minority Report if you wanted to go into that really, really high-tech future, because they basically gave the Machine Empire. They took all the technology after the Machine Empire. So this, again, it's still confusing where it takes place. Between Season 3 and Zeo, or near the end of Zeo. Maybe they were jumping around. I don't really know. And really the only Ranger left, of course, is Tommy. We got to have Tommy be the last Ranger alive. I didn't like the fan film. There are people that like it. Good for you. That's your prerogative. You can go like it. You can go love the gore fest. I think they crossed too many lines. There were aspects that, you know, oh, this feels like Lightspeed Rescue and the advanced technology and then the action designs and also kind of like Time Force, because Time Force, to me, extended the boundary of PR's limits and went a little further where you can do dark stuff. Now, Saban Brands pulling it, I could see where they're coming from. Again, it's showing an R-rated version of PR. You don't want to be associated with that. But the movie/fan film falls under parody. Technically, you're not supposed to be pulling this because, again, it's artistic license, it's fan film, they're not making profit, etc. So it shouldn't be pulled, and I think Saban Brands is overexerting their power and ability. It's really hard to deal with parodies, fair use. It's all a mess when it comes to this stuff. So you can easily argue Joseph's stance. They're harassing them, to Saban's stance where they're trying to protect their property and showing bad light to them. I don't like the fan film either, but, you know, again, it's non-profit. They spent the money themselves, just like the Star Trek fan films. There's many episodes, movies, fan films for Star Trek, and as long as you fall under these specific rules, you're allowed to do these things. And CBS/Paramount usually does not have a problem with it. They come out, they're produced, Star Trek actors are in them for real, and they have no problem with them. Can PR be dark? Yes, of course it can be dark. But there's a line between being dark, like, say, Time Force, Lightspeed Rescue as examples, to Power/Rangers fan film, where they go beyond dark to Minority Report to gore everywhere. To me, if I was editing this fan film and I wanted it to be more closer to what PR is, Zach's cocaine addiction, the nudity, and the cursing would be edited out. At most, cursing would be, to me, would be, damn it, hell, maybe say shit once as a shock value, because that's what the Transformer animated movie did. It's a kids movie, but at the end, also they allowed a couple of bits of moments that were intense. Optimus Prime's death. A couple of characters said, shit, what do we do now? Damn it. In those cases, that's where it works, and I think that's perfectly fine for kids. But the extreme gore fest that they did in order to just replace the Sparks, no. Leave your comments below on what you think of this fan film or the Dino Charge episode. And one more thing, I'm still doing the Q&A, so if you have Q&A questions that you want to ask, leave them down below. I'll actually be filming and editing the Q&A next week, so you still have time to put in some Q&A questions in the comments below. And I hope to speak to you soon for vlog number 5, which will be covering Dino Charge episode 5.